Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James, joined once again by my co-host Cody. Cody, how are you on this fine Victory Monday?
Oh, I've been waiting for that all day. I've been waiting for you to scream that in my ear hole all day. I hope that everyone else listening or watching the show felt the same about that. Listen, I'm doing fantastic. Steelers came out with a victory. It was a slightly short day at work today. James, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Tough to have a bad day on a Victory Monday. It really is.
It is tough to have a bad day on a Victory Monday.
Especially when the rest of the AFC North lays up a big old goose egg, and they're all supposed to be so much better than the Steelers this year.
Listen, I keep seeing this meme over and over again on Facebook today. Baker Mayfield outplaying Deshaun Watson is the most Cleveland Brown thing to happen in the NFL ever. I love it so much.
Here for it.
They're a joke of a team, a joke of just an organization as a whole. Front office getting rid of Baker Mayfield when he won them their first playoff game in how long over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just crazy to me.
And he broke the record in the NFL for most passing touchdowns by a rookie in the history of the NFL. They march him out there, make him play half a season with a broken shoulder, and then wonder why he didn't play good. Get the heck out of here, man. That's why you're a losing franchise.
I love it, though. Anyways, this is not the Beat on the Browns by the Lake podcast show. Granted, it could be sometimes. We're gonna talk a lot of things with this Steelers Falcons game. Before we get there, we're gonna talk a couple things before the game, inactive stuff like that. Logan Lee did go to the IR before the game, and Ben Skowronek was promoted to the 53-man roster. Obviously, that would be because Roman Wilson was inactive. Speaking of inactives, James, you want to go over those short list of 5 guys there?
Yeah, only 5 guys, just like the burgers and fries.
Wow.
Russell Wilson, inactive, although he was the emergency quarterback. Isaac Seumalo, Roman Wilson, still coming back from that ankle injury. Dean Lowry, and Jalen Elliott, which honestly was a surprise to me because
very big surprise.
I assumed that he would be active based off of his special teams abilities.
But, yeah. Okay. Hashtag not an ad, hashtag not a partner, 5 guys, burgers and fries. But we do love them. They're a little overpriced, but that's fine. If they want to give us a shout out, we'll make it work. Imagine if that was our first official sponsor, 5 Guys.
I'd be here for it, bro.
Oh, man. I don't even know where the nearest 5 Guys is to me down here in West Virginia. We got to figure that out. But before we get too far, I want to give a shout out to my former high school principal. I got to speak on the phone with him today. Very cool, very awesome guy, very down to earth. Also a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, James, Mr. Menno, General McLean High School. If you guys don't know who they are, you should.
Good guy.
He is a good guy, big Steelers fan. We were just talking about some stuff and got to talking about Steelers, and it was a good time. We might listen. Surprise, we might have him on the show sometime. We'll see what happens. Yeah, right. Let's talk Steelers game now because I know we're all excited for it. Pittsburgh comes out underdogs. Neither here nor there, honestly. I mean, obviously, everyone thought Pittsburgh was going to lose. Atlanta was going to win. Kirk Cousins coming in as the superhero. They haven't had a quarterback in how long with the Marcus Mariota drama and everything else. He just left in the middle of the season. That was crazy. But listen, Pittsburgh came out. I don't want to talk too much overall because we'll get to that after the game or after the going over individual stats and stuff. But Pittsburgh performed well enough to win and they didn't lose the game. That was my overall takeaway. Granted, I was still very frustrated with certain play calls. Me and you were texting during the game, and I was like, I'm not trying to be negative here, but this offense is a joke. The first few drives, Justin Fields did not seem comfortable under center. He muffed the very first snap. The second play was, I think, a joke. I don't remember what I said to you, but I was upset. Just a lot of things did not go well at the beginning. Probably, honestly, the first half of that game. It felt very combobulated, not in sync, not on the same page. I didn't feel like we had an identity. We didn't know who we wanted to be in that game. You could blame some of that coming down to Russell being officially named, or Justin being officially named a starter after pregame warmups, pretty much. I don't know. I don't know what was off, but I didn't like it in the first half.
Yeah, definitely the rhythm was not there, right? You hate to see a quarterback that's been in the league for 4 years now still having a tough time handling a snap from under center. That's something that is not acceptable going forward. You got to get that out of the way. In the preseason, they did it twice in one game. Same two guys, so we have a tough time saying is it Zach Frazier? Is it Justin Fields? The common denominator is the two of them for sure. Zach Frazier did not have those issues snapping to the two other quarterbacks on the team.
No.
So it does lead you to believe that the issue is quite likely with Justin Fields. Even his first few throws of the game, he had one where he tried to dump it off to Najee Harris, missed him pretty bad. Najee was very visibly upset because he had running room, right? He had running room. He would have got the first down. He would have had a nice play out of it. One of the first throws of the game, he had Van Jefferson in the flat on the right side and just missed him pretty grossly. And again, Van was open. There was nobody around him. It would have been an easy first down. It would have been moving the sticks and getting a little momentum going, and he just missed him.
Yeah.
As the game went on, I felt like Justin Fields got more accurate. And you hate to see a slow start, but it is at least a little bit comforting seeing him get more comfortable as the game went along, more comfortable with the game plan. But one thing that seemed to remain the same versus what we've seen a lot of the last few years, using the middle of the field passing the football.
Not
so
once.
No attempt.
No attempt inside the hashes. Not one.
Yeah. That's got to change in the future here. We've got to use the middle of the field, or the better teams in the NFL are going to expose that, and they're going to pick you off 10 times in a game.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. Justin Fields does have an advantage over Russell Wilson as far as throwing in the middle of the field because of his height. He's like a solid, 5 inches taller than Russell Wilson. So I would hope that gets fixed in the future. I can't imagine that we'll go 2 games not targeting that area once. But again, a lot of that comes down to the decision of the quarterback. We can run a route that is targeting the middle of the field. If the quarterback doesn't throw there, the quarterback doesn't throw there. But going back to what you said about Najee, just for a second before, again, we start breaking down these stats, Najee's got to be wild. I mean, we've talked about this for years that Najee's been frustrated behind an offensive line that just hasn't been able to create holes for him. It put him behind one of the elite offensive lines in the NFL. I think he rushes for 1,500 yards a year. He still has crazy performed behind Pittsburgh's offensive line over the past few years because is he the only running back to rush for 1,000 yards in his 3 first seasons? I think I saw that stat come across the screen yesterday.
I think he's the only active one that ran 1,000 in the last 3 seasons because everybody else had like an injury and missed a year.
Yeah.
But still
impressive.
Consistency is a huge thing. Yeah. Being able to playing through nagging injuries that aren't bad enough that you have to miss out. So the effort from Najee, you love the feistiness. We saw him try to fight the whole team the one time when one of the players literally grabbed his face mask and ripped it off while taking him to the ground in the middle of a dog pile. No penalty on the play. Very weird.
No, he was upset about that. Darnell Washington came into that too.
Yeah,
Darnell was going to fight someone. That was the fun
thing to see. That was the fun thing, is that Najee was ready to go toe to toe with the safety that did it. I think it was either Bates or Simmons. I forget which one it was, but it was definitely one of those two.
It was Bates, because Bates also took a cheap shot at him later in the game and quickly walked away to make it look like it wasn't him. I thought that was hysterical.
So after Najee gets in there, you see Darnell Washington come charging past every Steeler and go right in the middle, like he's ready to take the whole team on. Absolutely hilarious, but exactly what you need to see. Somebody has to be willing to be the bouncer.
Yep.
Somebody has to be willing to go in there and stuff. You can't have Najee going against 4 defenders on every play and then wondering why he isn't averaging more than 4 yards a carry. Offensive linemen and tight ends have to get involved. They have to push the pile. They have to help him in those situations. It can't be just him. I didn't see enough of that in this game.
No.
The running game was adequate in this game. 137 yards total is good. You moved the ball. You got some first downs. You got a lot of 4 and 5 yard carries on first down, which is very important as far as keeping a drive going and not letting it be a 3 and out. We didn't have that 3-and-out plague that we had last year in this game, and that was refreshing to get at least move, get a couple first downs, get yourself in field goal range on a regular basis. So Najee did his part, but we've got to open some bigger holes for him. Some of these offensive linemen got to do a little bit better job. Cody, I was real disappointed in James Daniels. I thought he had a bad game.
I think he
pushed
did.
around a lot. He couldn't handle Grady Jackson and pass protection, and he wasn't moving people in the run game either. So I don't know what the story is. I don't know if he has a nagging injury or if Grady Jackson is just that tough of a matchup. I know he is a very good player, but got to see better out of him.
Yeah, I mean, and we can also note, that entire defensive tackle group had a day off on Friday. We went over that on the pregame show, so they were maybe well rested than he has been for a game before. I don't know how often they do that for him or how often he's gotten a rest day before, the game prior to game day. So I don't know what the deal was there. I don't know why. Again, the offensive line just needs to create slightly bigger holes for Najee. We saw, I thought, improved running in the second half. Even the play calling alone, I thought, was drastically better for runs, how they were handled. I would like to see some more pulling guards, pulling tight ends, stuff like that. I still hate the jet sweep or the reverse, whatever we did. I hate those plays. I'm hoping that we stop seeing that because that, quite frankly, doesn't work very much. It hasn't worked in a few years. Outside of like
you run that too, right?
I mean,
you don't run that to your 6'4" wide receiver who's more of a long speed guy. You run that play to Calvin Austin, to Roman Wilson, the short, fast, quick, agile dudes. Yep. So I thought that the selection of who you ran that play to and maybe the timing of when it was called was the issue.
Yeah. Another thing that I was going to say, forgot what it was.
Let's talk deep balls, Cody. This was a nice improvement from what we're used to on the deep ball game. Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, both known for having a real nice deep ball. The only thing that I can really say about the deep ball in this game is, man, that was refreshing to see, buddy.
Oh, not the energy drink. Here we go.
Yeah, it's never too late in the day when you don't work the next day because you're still out with a bum shoulder. Really nice to see that connection from Justin Fields to George Pickens over and over and over. Would have exceeded 100 yards very easily had that last one not been reversed on what I thought was kind of a bogus pass interference call. By their own definition, offensive pass interference, you need to fully extend your arm, and he didn't do that. He only had it like halfway. So I don't know how in the world you call offensive pass interference on that unless you're getting a little bit of home cooking there, but we saw that a few times in this game. So I don't think that was too abnormal versus some of the other calls, unfortunately. When it's 9 versus one team and 5 versus other, it's a little bit lopsided on the penalties.
Yeah, and we'll get to the penalties later, I'm sure. That offensive pass interference was a joke. Don't get me wrong. You can call that penalty every single time, but when you don't call it any single time and then you call it that time, that's typically one of those ones you just let them play kind of thing. There was no full extension. It was a light touch. I don't even think he got 50% of extension from his arm. Don't get me wrong. George is a solid man. He pushed another guy. He moved a little bit. But it's not like the cornerback was even playing the ball either. The cornerback was 100% playing the man. I think there's a different argument to be said if he pushes him out of position of making a play on the ball. Beside the point, the refs also got some calls wrong later on. One of them actually admitted to it with a TJ Watt strip sack. Actually, he got 2 of them that were called back. And the ref actually told him, like, you weren't offsides. That's my bad after halftime when that happened in the first quarter. Luckily, the offense made a mistake and had a snap that hit a player in motion for Atlanta, and TJ hopped on that fumble. So we got 1 fumble recovery for him. He should have ended the game with 2 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. I maybe not 2 fumble recoveries because he obviously wouldn't have got the second one had he gotten the first one. But again,
it should have been 3 sacks,
100%,
and 2 fumble recoveries. So,
yep.
His stat line doesn't look anywhere near as impressive as what his performance in the game was, based off of a couple penalties, reversing some major plays, because that's what a strip sack is. A strip sack is a game-changing major play.
Yep.
And 2 of them were reversed in this game on him. And one of them, the second one, was just an illegal hands to the face on Dante Jackson on the other side of the field that had nothing to do with the play.
Yeah.
So frustrating to see. when TJ makes such dominating plays, and honestly just had a dominating performance in this game. Awesome plays against the run where he had a tackle for loss that was almost a 5-yard loss.
Yep.
Kept on seeing him pursuing the backside on runs that were away from him and forcing people to not have the opportunity to cut back.
Yep.
You can't cut back if TJ's crashing down the line. All you can do is keep on stretching it out and try to find a hole.
Yeah. Was he a part of the combination that hit Kirk Cousins when he threw that interception? I don't remember if he got there or not.
I'm not positive, but I think Larry Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward had a few of those.
Yeah, all 4 of them were in the area. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk more about individual things as we go along. We're going to go through the stats like we normally do. We'll start with the quarterback. Justin Fields, 17 of 23 for 156 yards, 6.8 average. Took 2 sacks for a loss of 23 yards. Overall, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The high praise here is he didn't go out and lose the game. He didn't turn the ball over. He did what Pittsburgh asked outside of using the middle of the field, which I'm sure they wanted to do. Once he got comfortable, he started taking shots downfield. The shot before halftime to George Pickens on the sideline when he almost ran out of time was a phenomenal play, scrambling to the left, stopping, pivoting his hips back to where he can make a good throw, and forcing that throw down the field to Pickens was phenomenal. Love to see that, especially George. We'll get to that later. I don't want to talk about George right now because I could talk about George all day. But overall, right. Justin Fields, I was impressed with him for this game. I will say that.
I was worried in the first quarter, and as the game went on, I got more. So I'm happy overall in the end, but I think there's a little bit of luck involved here too. When you have one bobbled snap, and then a second where he kind of fumbled it forward. Both of them were lucky bounces where we did not lose that ball. So got to clean that up. Can't have those in the future because it easily could have been 2 fumbles from Justin Fields, and then we might be talking about a little different outcome on this game. So
yeah, that's
the only major thing that I want to see cleaned up. And then, of course, using the middle of the field a little bit more. Any at all, really?
Yeah. I tried pulling up the chart. I saw the chart earlier on Facebook at work, and I have not seen it again. But the chart for his, throws, completions, incomplete passes, literally nothing, probably within 2 or 3 yards of the hashes. Nothing.
Yeah.
Which, again, like you said, if we continue the year like that, you're going to start being very limited, and defenses are going to read it, and you're going to start making mistakes. There's no other way around it. James, before we go running back room, let's just bounce right over to the receivers. And since we're talking about Justin Fields and passing, George Pickens, 7 targets for 6 receptions, 85 yards, 14.2 average, phenomenal average for him. Pat Freiermuth had 4 catches for 27. Jaylen Warren had 2 for 13. And then a list of guys with 1 reception. Michael Pruitt, Najee Harris both got 9 yards. Calvin Austin III got 7. Darnell Washington got 5. And Van Jefferson got 1. I didn't get the 10 targets that I called for in the pregame show that I wanted for George Pickens, but 7 and 6 catches for 85. You know what? That's good for me. For week 1, the way it was, not even getting in the end zone once as a team, but getting down the field, getting in field goal position, and all but one time taking advantage of that, I'll take it.
Yeah, you got to think that that's a success, especially since you saw some of the other teams in the North not really being able to get at their wide receivers at all. Especially down the field, a lot of dump offs to wide receivers on the other teams. So George Pickens probably had the best performance of any wide receiver in the AFC North this week 1. So nice job by him. Nice job by Justin Fields to get it to him. Nice job between the two of them to keep that completion percentage so high between the two.
Yeah.
When you're talking 6 catches on 7 targets, that's awesome. And same with Pat Freiermuth. He's known for this, 4 targets, 4 catches, right? Yep. You can't get any better with what. That's
why he has his own screaming name. Muse.
That's it, buddy.
Interesting to see that they go ahead and choose Michael Pruitt as the 3rd tight end for the game instead of Connor Hayward. Obviously, we talked about Connor Hayward's athleticism, what he's done in the past. He scored a touchdown against Atlanta the last time we played, very similar to the same way his dad scored a touchdown. But I was interested to see that. I wasn't shocked. I know that Michael Pruitt is the better blocker of the two. So when he's in there, there's a better, you can kind of play off a play action a little bit better with Michael Pruitt in there than Connor Hayward. I get that. But I didn't see a lot of Connor Hayward as much as probably would have expected. But again, that's just a slight thing that I didn't expect, I should say.
Yeah, and definitely Connor got used in the game. Let us not say that he wasn't used, because he was definitely used a few times, but not targeted, right?
Yeah.
So not a part of the passing game. And that's where the slippery slope is here, right? If the offense requires tight ends to be not just adequate blockers, but good ones, that's a difficult matchup for a 230-pound tight end who's only 6 foot tall and doesn't have the arm length that these bigger guys do. So hopefully they're able to incorporate him as more of a move player, maybe going opposite the grain where you send everybody in one direction and him coming back across the other way. Who knows? But he's a very capable receiver, a capable football player. Just one of those dudes that we've said this a bunch of times, where he's good at a bunch of things, but doesn't really stand out in any one category. And it's tough to really feature a guy like that in your offense.
Yep. Finishing up talking about let's talk about running backs real quick. Najee Harris, 20 carries for 70 yards. Justin Fields, 14 carries for 57 yards. Cordarrelle Patterson, 4 for 13. Jaylen Warren, 2 for 7. And George Pickens, 1 for the loss of 10. That was that end around, which granted it should have been a loss of 4 or 5. He made it a lot worse. That is what it is. I don't blame him for trying to make a play. I understand it's the whole Deontay Johnson.
I think it was the third down anyway,
again.
So he kind of had to.
I thought it was first down. I could have been wrong. I don't know. But listen, speaking of third down efficiency, real quick, we were 8 of 17 on the game. I want to see that go up next week. Hint, hint, that may be a key to success for me next week. We'll have to wait and see. But no, the big thing here, James, is one, they were only 13 yards away from your goal that you had for them of 150. Not bad.
Yep.
Again, would have loved to have seen them cross that 150 mark. The big thing for me is no mistakes, no turnovers, no fumbles from specifically that running back room. And even Justin Fields outside of the fumbled snap, he had no fumbles when he was running, no chances of losing the ball. I felt like he did a good combination of fighting for extra yards when he needed to and sliding when he didn't, or getting out of bounds or whatever it was. So overall, I thought the running game was good. Again, we already talked about this in a little bit earlier. The blocking got a lot better in the second half. I'm hoping to see that improve even more as we go to next week's game. Obviously still won't have the starting guard back. It'll probably be Spencer Anderson still. But hoping to see that group gel a little bit more as we go into next week's game against Denver.
Yeah. And I think we will see that too. You got a little bit of mix and match here as far as what's going on versus guys have been injured and who's where. So I think that'll get a little better as time goes on. But one of my other keys was don't allow more than 2 sacks, and they only allowed 2 sacks. So we hit on that one real close on the running performance one. And no surprise that a W ensued. So nice to see that. I think overall, the only guy that I thought didn't have a good game on the offensive line was James Daniels. I thought everybody else was at least adequate to good, which is great news.
Yeah.
So a nice kickoff to the season. Honestly, I thought James Daniels looked skinnier than he did last year too. And I don't know if he did that on purpose, or if he's trying to get leaner or what. But you get too lean as a guard, you're just going to get pushed around. So hopefully we see better performances out of him in the next couple of weeks here. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to put one of these other guards over in his spot once Isaac Sayamalo returns.
Yeah. Let's make this transition over to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line. I thought we saw a decent game from Cam Hayward. No splash plays from him, ironically. I didn't see him get any balls batted down or his hands up to do it. I just felt like it was a quiet game from him. I don't think it was a bad game by any means. But I felt like he wasn't maybe 100%. I don't know if he's dealing with anything still from that surgery. Going to be a question mark for me for next week to see what he does. Again, I'm not saying he had a bad game. I'm not saying it's just you didn't see much. It's almost like he kind of was a stalemate with whoever he was one-on-one with, or was he double teamed? I didn't pay attention enough to that and haven't had a chance to watch the game back or anything. But James, I do want to give a massive shout out to Montravius Adams coming in with a sack. I'm surprised they didn't give him a half sack. I thought he got there at the same time as somebody else. But they
Yeah,
wound up.
and that person that he got there the same time with was Cameron Hayward.
Yeah. Okay. So
And honestly, I thought Cam was a little more disruptive than you might have thought in this game.
it
And that
must
was
have
one of
just
the
been
reasons
so
why.
much other stuff going on in this game, man.
And one of the times, like they ran at him on a 3rd and 3, and he stuffed it, and they only got a yard. It's like him against the offensive lineman and the running back, and he stuffed everybody involved. I thought that Cam was disruptive, but was unable to be the first man to the quarterback.
Yeah.
He wasn't making the splash plays, but was still very stout. And looked a lot better than what I thought he did last season as far as beating guys getting to the quarterback.
And maybe
So
that's his new role. I mean, I'm not saying he's losing quality as a player, but he is getting older. We are also getting younger talent, faster talent by all definitions on the outside with TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Herbig. So again, I mean, I don't mind Cameron Hayward having a quiet game like this. You want to see him get sacks. You want to see him improve that sack total. We talked about that in the pregame show, potentially being a Hall of Famer, stuff like that. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing. Montravius Adams, obviously, with that sack. Montravius Adams also had a QB hit that wasn't a sack that he got down for. Larry Ogunjobi had 2 QB hits on the game with 3 tackles. Keanu Benton had a QB hit. We were getting to the quarterback. We were ruffling his feathers, per se, like I wanted to.
yeah.
And we hit the 3 sacks. That was one of my goals for the thing, for the pregame show. The problem was they got taken back. So
yeah, right. Yeah, it should have been 4 sacks.
Yep.
And then it would have been smack in the middle of where both said. I'm in full agreement with you on Montravius Adams. I think this was his best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Very disruptive. Looked real quick, honestly. I thought that once he got the shed part of the stack and shed against his offensive lineman he was matched up against, no matter which one it was, he looked very quick in those first couple steps getting after the quarterback.
Yep.
So we got to keep our eyes on that, because maybe, just maybe, what we've been trying to hit year after year with DeMarvin Leal and Isaiah Louder and now Logan Lee and all these mid to late round defensive linemen that we're just trying to hit on one of these guys. Maybe this homegrown guy that we've been back of the rostering is developing into someone who might be a capable starter in a couple of years. So definitely keep your eye on what we got on Montravius Adams, because I think they made a good move on keeping this man around. So Larry Ogunjobi, I thought, was getting some nice pressures in this game. Again, did not fill up the stat sheet, which is basically the story of his Pittsburgh Steelers career at this stage. But he was getting to the quarterback, and some of those passes that were getting deflective and intercepted had something to do with Larry getting to the quarterback and not allowing Kirk Cousins to step into his passes.
Yep.
So very tough to get a good on-time throw with a bunch of oomph on it when you can't even finish your entire arm motion, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Probably one of the best performances, maybe not stat line wise, but as a whole and as just execution from a defensive line front that we've seen in a couple of years, probably since Stephon Tuitt, if I'm being honest. It's been a while since we've seen this much disruption and just attack from a defensive line. Let's finish off the defensive front, go outside linebackers, James.
Yeah, obviously we mentioned it a little bit already. Jay Watt, dominant performance in this game. Not just rushing the passer, but also against the run. You know, that one time they ran to his side, he kind of olayed that offensive tackle. The guy completely whiffed on him, and he shut it down for about a 5-yard loss on the play. And then all day long when they were running away from him, if they didn't account for him, he was running down that line, and there was no cutback lane for the running back. They had no choice but to push it outside, try to find a hole on the outside, because it wasn't going to be on TJ's side. So exactly what you love to see. I thought underwhelming from Alex Highsmith. I didn't think he had a bad game, but underwhelming performance overall. And not as much juice as we were hoping to see out of DeMarvin Leal and Nick Herbig, but I did feel like Nick Herbig was successful in getting up the arc and forcing the quarterback to step forward. So if you're not going to get to the quarterback by getting up the arc and forcing that quarterback to step forward, now those guys in the middle, if they're getting a push, it's going to force them into an uncomfortable situation, which happened a few times. So sometimes you don't even get a chance to get a statistic on the play. It's not a pressure, it's not a hit, but you did force the quarterback to step up, and by doing that, he's not able to step fully into his throw, or maybe even rushes his pass a little bit. So I feel like the pressure was there all game long. It was just Kirk was getting the ball out, and sometimes I'm betting now he would have taken the sack rather than let that ball fly, because it could have easily been 3 or 4 interceptions. He was lucky to only have 2 interceptions.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm gonna go on the defense a little bit here of Alex Highsmith. I felt like he had a lot of juice going in the beginning of the game, but as soon as he was hit with that offsides penalty, which again I don't think was an offsides, I think that him and TJ both perfectly, lined up that snap count and jumped at the perfect time. I think he kind of not held back a little bit, but I feel like he knew that it was more disruptive to get a penalty in those situations than getting that potential half step on that offensive tackle. But again, I hope to see more out of both Highsmith and Herbig in the future. I'm excited I was big on Herbig last year. I told you 10 sacks last year. Hopefully we get there this year. We'll see. But if they keep taking sacks away from these guys like they did TJ, I don't know what's going to happen. It's unfortunate, especially because the one ref did apologize and say he got that wrong. So TJ, even if you don't include the 3rd sack, but the one that the ref said he got it wrong, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery in this game, would have been a phenomenal stat line. Again, he had 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits in this game. TJ is an animal, and we love him being on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, dang right, man. Let's middle. You're getting a whole bunch of nothing out of me.
I got you now.
Let's try again. Yeah, I was noticing as you were shaking your head there. So the middle linebacker room, let's move there. I didn't feel like there was a huge splash out of any of these guys, but a couple very important plays, and I thought that Peyton Wilson really stood tall in a couple of key moments. One of them getting a tackle that prevented a touchdown from happening. So nice to see that extreme athleticism that we've been talking about with Peyton Wilson. I think as the season goes on, if we continue seeing him making these plays like this, I thought he was pretty good in his stack and shed too, especially on those outside sweep and toss type plays where it's going off tackle way outside. I felt like we really had a nice amount of him getting off of a block and then go get the tackle. So I don't think you're going to be able to keep this guy in just nickel and dime formations as the season goes along. I think Elandon Roberts is going to find himself getting less and less playing time in favor of Peyton Wilson, and not because Elandon Roberts is bad, just because Peyton Wilson looks so good.
Yeah. No, I thought Peyton Wilson had a phenomenal game. I'm excited to see him mature and grow as a NFL player. I think he's going to become accustomed to the speed of the game as the year goes on. It's drastically different than college. Some people say it's slower than college. I think there's just a drastically...
I've never heard that.
Oh, I hear it all the time. But it's because there's a drastic difference of the level of athlete in college than there is in NFL. In NFL, you have the best of the best. They're closer together. You're not going to see guys always... you have the Tyreek Hill, the Xavier Worthies, but some teams in college football have 1 or 2 guys that are drastically faster than the majority of the players on the other team. So you see explosive plays more often in college. I think that's part of the reason why. And him just getting comfortable with the speed of the game and learning different things. I'm very excited to see him grow. Patrick Queen, again, like you said, I thought he had a good game. I thought he managed.
Good, just quiet.
I thought he managed very well. He obviously has the green dot. He's the one communicating with the sideline and calling the plays. I didn't see any weaknesses out of him per se. That's, again, the big part for me. I'm excited to see him make more plays in the backfield, potentially, and disrupt the run and pass both a little bit more. James, let's go cornerback room for a second.
Now, this is fun, Cody. Let's be honest here.
I'm ready.
Because one of the big question marks going into the season, we all have all the confidence in the world that Joey Porter Jr., he had a nice game. Did miss a couple of plays due to injury, came right back in. They didn't even really talk about what it was, because whatever it was obviously was not significant. So I'm not concerned about that. In fact, he shut Drake London down. It was like 2 catches for 50
yards. Yeah, I had Drake London
something real impressive. So
on my fantasy team, so I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, ouch.
I'm still going to win. Don't worry.
Yeah, what would have been worse is if you were going against the Steelers defense and interceptions counted negatively against you. Because Dante Jackson had himself a very nice game as far as a debut in the black and gold. couldn't have asked for much more out of the guy. Obviously, you would have loved to have seen him get that interception early in the game where it hit his hands and he kind of dropped it.
It hit his face. Let's be real.
It could have been that could have been a pick six pretty easy, I thought, if he would have caught the thing. But you're happy to see the breakup. He gets another breakup later on in the game, and then he gets an interception near the end that darn near seals the thing and almost brings it back for a touchdown. I was very impressed with his return capability on that particular interception there. Might have something there as far as, if you need another punt return guy, maybe Dante Jackson might be able to do that. I don't know.
You never know. You never know.
He sure looks small, but he doesn't play small, man. So I'm very, very happy with what we got out of Dante Jackson in this game. And I thought that Beanie Bishop was a little bit up and down, but represented himself fairly well in this game. So I'm excited to see more of him in the future. And maybe a little bit more Corey Trice too, but you're not going to see that unless teams go for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and let's be real here. So I'm going to go two directions here real quick. Let's talk about the Atlanta receiving core. Ray McLeod had himself a game.
Didn't he? He must have been mad about not being a Steeler anymore.
Probably. I mean, only 52 yards, but he performed very well for a third or fourth string wide receiver. Bijan Robinson had a good game out of the backfield. Kyle Pitts had the 3 catches for 26 yards and a touchdown. They also had Darnell Mooney and Drake London. That receiver core, when you look at it on paper, I'm like 250 yards a game easy, especially with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. Pittsburgh held them to 155, and that's without Cam Sutton. You have to remember that we're going to get Cam Sutton back after week 8. So,
and starting Beanie Bishop, who's an undrafted rookie at nickel corner. And honestly, he's the one that led up that touchdown pass.
Yep.
He lost track.
And I don't even think he lost track. I think he got excited about a potential dump off and saw something in the backfield that he was excited to make a play. I think that was just a little bit of that rookie excitement, a rookie mistake. I don't think he genuinely lost him because he wasn't even looking at him. I think he saw something that he wanted to make a play on. That's what I watched the recap on my way home from work. I was in the passenger seat, don't worry. But I do just have to clarify there. But I do think that he might have seen something that he was trying to make a play, got excited. Rookie mistake. He realizes next time, what do they always say? Do your job. If everyone does their job, that's how you're going to make plays, get victories, all that stuff. But very impressed with that secondary group. Real quick, James, I want to do this every week. I want to revisit this trade.
Yeah.
You want to talk somebody else first?
There's somebody else in the secondary that definitely needs a shout out from this game. Also, his first debut in the black and gold, Deshaun Elliott. What a performance from him. My goodness. He got himself an interception as well, had 2 additional pass deflections on top of that. Really was flying all over the place and did a great job in contributing to not allowing the tight ends to really take it over this game, which would have been an easy thing to do with such an athletic tight end starting for the Atlanta Falcons. So I was really impressed with what we got out of Deshaun Elliott. And it immediately makes me think that this is probably the best safety that Minkah Fitzpatrick has played next to in his career. And that's exciting. That is really
Terrell
exciting,
Edmonds.
man.
Let me say it again, James. It wasn't Terrell Edmonds. I don't care if he got 2 interceptions in one game. I can't stand the fact that he stayed here for so long.
And not the Monte KZ and not any of the there the last few years, man.
No.
So, yeah, happy to see it. That might end up being a really underrated signing. So, but go ahead.
Well,
before let's talk about that trade.
We're already talking safeties. Let's get Minkah in there.
Yeah.
Minkah led the team in tackles. That's not a good thing. Let's clarify.
We don't want that.
I'm okay with it. He makes plays. I mean, let's be real. A lot of times you're worried about your safeties getting tackled because that means they got to the 3rd level. I will say one play, Minkah came up and hit a running back on a cutback lane.
Like at the line.
Almost at the line. It was like 1 or 2 yards.
Yeah.
So not as concerned with the Minkah total number of tackles there because of how he performed. And I'm excited to see him get back into that. I don't know. He seemed a little quiet last year, or maybe I'm just depressed on how the year was. I don't know. But I'm excited to see Minkah make some more plays like that. And honestly, again, that could come from the comfort of playing next to a safety that you can actually trust to make the plays. So excited to see that.
I think a better corner room is going to do him is that he had to bait these corners that didn't have good speed.
Yeah.
we had multiple corners and Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson that couldn't hang with anyone fast last year. So Minka had to be the guy over the top on all of this, preventing those big plays from happening. But that prevents him from making interceptions because he's basically literally just playing safety back there, keeping the big play from happening, where he's a turnover machine when you let him go run loose. And I think with what we saw from Deshaun Elliott, he's going to have a lot more freedom now.
Love to see it. Really excited for that. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and revisit this trade with the Carolina Panthers, James. I'm probably going to do this weekly just because I'm going to be curious to see how it goes. And obviously there's a reason to do it this week. So Deontay Johnson for Deontay Jackson. I believe there was a pick involved. I don't remember what it was. I'm not worried about that. Right now, I'm just comparing player to player. Deontay Johnson in the Panthers' absolute destruction against the Saints had two catches on 6 targets for 19 yards.
Oh,
seems about right. Seems about the Deontay that we were used to. I don't know how many of those missed were drops or anything like that.
But bad
6
throws because they don't have a good quarterback there.
Bryce Young. Who knows? But again, and then you look at Dante Jackson's numbers for the week: 2 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and an interception. So far, Pittsburgh is winning that trade. Thank you, con artist Omar Khan. We love to see it. We're excited. I think that we're going to win that trade every single week unless Deontay has one crazy game where he scores 2 touchdowns. I don't know. I don't see Deontay in that offensive system the way that it's working right now doing much. And again, they just got mollywopped by their division rival, the Saints. Derek Carr and that Saints offense went back and did the same thing. I mean, in the last 5 weeks of the year last year, they were the top scoring offense in the league. So they're just picking right back up where they left off. So
yeah,
props to them.
Better quarterback play now.
Yeah. Yep. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So
special
far
teams, Cody.
Let's talk special teams, special players.
Yeah.
Special plays. Shout out to Sketch. I mean, let's talk. Okay, so let's talk punt returns. Calvin Austin had 4 returns for 47 yards, 11.8 average. Nothing too crazy. He did have one that popped a little bit. Actually, he kind of had 2 that popped a little bit, if I remember correctly.
If he gets to the corner on one of these teams, man, he can take it
and has some
wonderful
blocking.
Thing about it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about having a guy that fast as your punt return, man. He can take it to the house anytime he catches it.
Yep.
So I'm here for it. You're going to have some where he kind of sits there and tries to wait too long to make decisions. We saw that a couple times in this game. But when he goes, man, not many guys in this league can run with him. There's not many defenders who can run a 4.3 340. So yeah, I like seeing that out of him, man. Where else we want to go? We want to talk kick returns because they didn't happen.
Yeah, we didn't have any kick returns. Let's talk the MVP of the game. As always, Boz for president, man. Chris Boswell, 6 for 6 on field goals for the day. Should have been 7 for 7. I disagree with Pittsburgh going for it on 4th and 1 when they did. There was at a time in the game where you had the chance of going up 8 points, which would have been a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on a team that we were at that point in the game controlling fairly well on offense. If I remember correctly, that was after they scored the touchdown to Kyle Pitts. We were aware that they were able to score a touchdown. They went down the field on us that one time. I thought that going for the field goal in that situation would have been the better decision. I understand wanting to go for it, make a stand, make a play. But I just didn't agree with it. So again, Boz 6 for 6, 3 field goals over 50 yards on the day. 4? Was it 4? Okay.
It was 4, I'm pretty sure.
That's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely incredible performance by Boz. And none of them were close either, right? It wasn't like any of them just barely got inside the upright. They were all pretty much right down the middle. So
yeah, 57-yarder, 44-yarder, 56-yarder, 40-yard, and 25. So 3 over 50.
One more. You only listed 5.
Field goal 57, field goal 51, field goal 44, field goal 56, field goal 40, and field goal 25. So 3 over 50, 2 over 40, and then 1 at 25.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, but either way, dear Lord, I don't know. When was the last time a kicker made 3 from 50 in a game? Let's be real. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll look it up for next week, but I'm not about that might take a little bit of digging.
We actually looked up while we were watching. A couple friends were over watching. Up how many times a Steelers kicker had done 6 field goals made in a game. It's only happened 3 times before this.
Was one Jeff Reed?
I'm not sure. I didn't get who it was. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure Gary Anderson was one.
That doesn't
One
surprise
was
me.
in 2016, and then another one was like 02, I think.
So 2016 was
So
probably what, Schwab? Or is that too early? That might have been Reed.
it might have been Swisham. It might have been
Swisham?
I think it was Sean Swisham probably before Chris
Probably.
Boswell. Yeah.
Probably.
So yeah, that's my guess on that because he was dang accurate too, man.
Yeah. Boswell also had a punt for 43 yards, which was exactly what we needed him to do. We'll get to the reason why our kicker was punting the ball right now.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate that Cameron Johnston went down with a knee injury. I was mad at first, and then I saw the replay and realized that Miles Killebrew kind of blocked the guy into his leg. I don't blame them for not calling the penalty. Just still very, very unfortunate that it happened. We do have a new in-house sports medicine professional. Big shout out to Dr. Amy Eperthener, who has been a licensed athletic trainer for 23 years, was a professor of mine in college. So Dr. Amy Eperthener, thank you for chatting with me recently. And I sent her the video. We talked about it a little bit. And she said that based on looking on that, obviously no connections to the Steelers or any official review here, but just based on the video of the injury and seeing it in slow-mo and replay, she said it easily could have caused a PCL tear and most likely a meniscus tear. So again, either one of those is surgery and potentially season ending. So very unfortunate news for him. Very sad to see, hoping that he has a full recovery because, I mean, hands down, this was the best punter we've had in years. Hands down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's been a long time. In the play in question, I have a little differing opinion from you on this because the guy kind of went through Miles Killebrew.
I think if he would have let him
rather
than held him, I would have agreed with you, but continue.
Yeah. So I don't know where he thought he was going to go other than into the kicker because he was attempting to go right through Miles Killebrew. So I feel like the rule states that the kicker has to have somewhere to land.
Yeah.
And he did not have anywhere to land, which was because the guy went through Miles Killebrew. So I felt it was pretty clear that it should have been a roughing the punter penalty. And he took all the impact on the front of the knee. So based off of the diagnosis of our expert, that's actually probably a good thing because a meniscal tear, oftentimes you can come back from that in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's going to be different for a kicker and it being on his kicking leg. PCL tear is going to be one of the smaller ligaments in your knee. Not as frequently of an injury in football world as we see with like MCLs and ACLs. But again, all the contact was to the front of the knee, not the side. That's why she's not suspecting it to be an ACL or MCL or anything like that.
Well,
usually those side impacts are when you have those.
And a lot of those, awkwardly enough, a lot of those ACL injuries are sometimes no contact injuries, which is still crazy to see.
Very much so.
You're which I think is what happened to me in high school. Leg got planted in turf and stuck there, and I got hit. Leg stayed, body didn't. So just kind of rolled. So very interesting. Thank you again for Dr. Amy Eperthener. We appreciate you. Look forward to working with you more closely as we deal with, hopefully not. Let me clarify. Hopefully I don't have to talk to you again this season about injuries for the Steelers. But I am thankful for you. But with that being said, that kind of wraps up the game. You want to talk a couple other things. Oh, and the concussion.
Darius Rush.
Darius
Rush suffered a concussion in this game as well. So don't expect him to be available in the game versus the Denver Broncos, especially since he only played in special teams. So I'm sure they'll just slap somebody else into that position for this upcoming game.
Yeah. A reminder to you guys that we did recently join a new group of people called Hardcore Sports. Mitch Kofsky hit us up for that. So Hardcore Sports on YouTube and all the social media platforms is a new partnership that we're dealing with and going through. That's new to us. We're kind of figuring all those things out, what that looks like to partner with them. Very excited. We did join their live show Sunday morning before the game and kind of discuss some of the games and things that are happening and just some highlights and story points for the year for week 1. James will probably be doing that every week. For me, it just depends on church and stuff like that. They also have a Wednesday night pick'em show, which is where they go through and look at the games for the week and pick the games. That's why they call it pick'ems. So real excited and real grateful for the opportunity we have to serve and work with them. With that being said, we can't thank you guys enough for listening and watching. If you're on YouTube, remember to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Don't cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make this guy over here, James Strong, very, very happy. And again, until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.
Steelers by